in a way, I come at it with regret. I don't want to be too critical of LeBron because you do run into this. We start to get in the way of the appreciation for the past and present. Again, the career is spectacular. And if I'm arguing that he's not, in my estimation, the greatest of all time, it's only because I think he's a 1 in a billion sort of athlete generationally, and Michael Jordan is a 1 in a trillion, right? Like these are the, this is what we're talking about here. It's no slight to be arguably the second greatest player of all time, but he is rather annoying. He just is. I don't know. That's just part of how it's been, and it seems like the root of being annoying is that quest to be considered the best, which we want him to want in a way, and we want him to strive for. The issue is that so much of the striving has happened in the PR capacity, as opposed to simply just being about whatever happens on the court. And so more than an athlete, yes. Back in the day at Nike, there was this sense that we're going to push him like this modern Muhammad Ali figure. We're going to push him as this man with a conscience, social justice. Because the knock on Michael Jordan was that he said Republicans buy sneakers too. LeBron is going to be something more. It's going to be turbocharged in a way from getting told to shut up and dribble. Laura Ingraham on Fox News said that, and then that was embraced. And the problem is that I'm not saying that he should shut up and dribble, but he also wasn't that guy either. He also wasn't somebody who makes compelling cases for what we need to do on a societal level. That's just not what he's good at. Because we do have that dearth of honest talk, frank talk, criticism in NBA media. Nobody says that. Nobody pipes up and says that. Nobody says in official NBA media, when this guy talks about current events, he doesn't sound sharp. He doesn't sound convincing. He doesn't even really sound honest. It does seem like a gambit. It does seem like a marketing ploy. And people see through it. People, a lot of people might, on the conservative side, hate Colin Kaepernick, but I don't think Kaepernick did that as a marketing ploy. He might have gotten paid by Nike later, but I don't think he did it as a marketing ploy. LeBron saw what happened with Kaepernick, and that, I believe, if you hear people behind the scenes, open their eyes to how this could be an avenue to get more popularity and adulation. And if you can't get 6 titles, then at least you can be more meaningful. But he's just not that guy, pal. And it hasn't worked. So then there was a walking back from that. And now there's a rebrand. And now there's this push behind the scenes that, to curse, Justin, LeBron is now in his I don't give a fuck stage, like Kobe was. He's in his I don't give a fuck stage. I'll say this and that about Brian Windhorst. And people are going, oh, man, I really like that LeBron's just letting it fly now, no longer buttoned up. And I'm just thinking to myself, this guy's been talking a lot for a lot of years. This isn't exactly like Kobe suddenly letting it fly. But it's all just a new rebrand with him. And insofar as I can have any sympathy for it, it'll just be this. It'll be that he's a child star. It's amazing he didn't completely fall apart psychologically like Britney Spears. It's incredible that the career has been what it's been. That doesn't mean I have to love everything he's saying or have it make me more thrilled about whatever he's doing on the court, though.
Yeah, I mean, you can respect his game. Like I always say, reasonable people can think he's the greatest player of all time, and I'm not going to call him stupid. There's an argument for that to be the case. You can respect the fact, as you said, that he's got all this fame and all these yes people around him, and he hasn't utterly collapsed like a Britney Spears. You can respect the fact that he's helped out all his childhood friends. That's very commendable. But you can also, at the same time, say a very grating personality, and something that just, with Kobe, it comes off as natural, right? Or it did come off as natural. It's like, all right, this is just who this guy is. With LeBron, to me personally, it just doesn't seem like it's natural. It's almost the same thing with like Charles Barkley and Draymond. Draymond's trying to be Charles Barkley. The difference to me, though, is that Barkley comes off as genuine. Barkley naturally can deliver criticism, but do it in a funny and endearing way. Whereas Draymond tries to do the same thing, but he comes off as if he's just mean-spirited and not funny, even though they're basically, trying to do the same thing. One guy's doing it naturally. The other guy is forcing it.
Yeah, Draymond is vicious. That's part and parcel of why he is arguably the greatest defensive player of all time. Some people would chafe at that, but it's rooted in a kind of cruelty. It's rooted in trying to tear people down. And I don't think that being an offensive star is, I guess it was for Jordan. Maybe I'm getting a little bit too psychoanalytical without any kind of proof, but I do think that you're making a good point where it's natural versus unnatural. The craziest thing about it, though, is that in a way, Kobe Bryant, I do think, was playing a role, and yet it just worked so well. I think he was just sharper. I think he was just more charismatic, and he understood what people wanted out of him. He understood that the Mamba mentality and being this workaholic, being this psycho in a way, wasn't just part of who he was, but it was part of what was appealing to people. And they liked that.
Yeah.
And they liked when he sold it to them. And Nike had fun with it when he did the Kobe system ads, where he was giving this pretentious sounding advice to be whatever, a new animal and a new beast. I can't even remember what was said in that ad with Kanye West, but there was just this ability to pull it off and to sell it in a way that just flowed and was natural. That with LeBron, it's always like he's trying to find a way to connect with us, and he doesn't know how to do it. And that's just been part of the story, and it's just lingered for so long because he's been incredible for so long.
Yeah.
It's just how it's gone.
Yeah, and perhaps it's because LeBron cares too much about the way he's perceived, whereas a lot of these other guys didn't. Magic's got a little of that, where I think he cares about how he is perceived. But you have guys like Jordan, like Bird, like Kobe. Those guys, it doesn't seem like they care what the public thinks, and if they do, they don't let it on. And one of the other things I'll say, and maybe this is a little bit too much and completely off, but like you could get LeBron doing the same thing as Kobe or Jordan or Bird. And it's just as impressive, but he tells his own story, and I think that can get frustrating. Whereas if you hear stories about like Larry Bird doing the same thing, it's like it's coming through the eyes of others. So he's not bragging about it. You're hearing like, oh, Larry Bird came up to me and he said like, I'm going to shoot it from right here, on Christmas Day. And then he sticks it in Xavier McDaniel's face. And he's like, I told you, mother bleeper. And like, that's an awesome story. Whereas, and you hear about it 15 years later, whereas LeBron will do something like that. And then instead of waiting for the opponent to, say this awesome LeBron story, he's got to tell it to you. And all of a sudden the story goes from being, funny and endearing to just being annoying.
Yeah, there's a lack of trust. Maybe it's rooted back to how the decision was just so crushing in a way, and all the criticism, but he doesn't trust that things will work out as it will, and he'll get the praise that he should get, and people will tell the stories that they should tell. There's a jumping of the gun in a way, and charisma is just so mysterious and ineffable. When you see the fictional portrayal of Bird in Winning Time, you can easily go, this guy is mean. He's not very likable. And yet you kind of love that about Larry Bird. You love that about the portrayal. And it's hard to explain why you love that, but you also like the insouciance, I don't know if I pronounce insouciance, however I want to pronounce that, or happy-go-lucky nature of a Magic Johnson, and that works as well. And the best I can do is just say that authenticity wins, but I don't even know if that's the case. If some people are authentically not very charismatic, it's mysterious. This is one of the reasons I love the NBA, though, is that this sort of thing matters a lot versus in other sports where it doesn't, where the personality, the aura of an athlete is worth, God, how much money to Nike? I mean, I know money, to reduce it down, it's almost taking something from it, but I've made the argument that Michael Jordan was perhaps as important to Nike as Steve Jobs was to Apple. And a lot of that's just this, it's how great he was, but it's also this other ineffable just soup of humanity and projection to the masses. And it's got to be frustrating if you're somebody who's at that level of play and you don't know how to be those other things that people really love. It's got to be tough. It's got to be tough to go, what do I lack that this guy has?
I imagine that would get under his skin, and it seems that he has. That's why he constantly, has to point out maybe some of the stuff that he's done, whereas other people kind of just trust the process, as you alluded to. But I think your point is correct on the authenticity. Whatever the walk of life, if somebody is true to themselves, then I think you at least respect that. You might not like them for the way that they behave, but you respect the fact that they're true to themselves. Where you spot a phony and you go like, does this person stand for anything? Who are they really? And that's kind of hard to respect and acknowledge.
We might be wrong, by the way. People might argue, hey, this has worked out. Way more people consider LeBron the GOAT right now than they did 5 years ago. Perhaps he's not talking past the sale. Perhaps he's making the sale. And by taking charge of this effort, he's advanced it. And we might not like it, but a lot of other people are okay with it, and they're convinced and compelled by it, and they liked what he said on McAfee. I don't know. It's all in vague land, subjective land. I can say authenticity wins, but I just said earlier that Kevin Durant is authentically insecure, and I don't think that's one for him. This isn't a satisfying. I'm not giving a good take here, but I'm putting that out there. What if we're wrong, Justin? What if we're wrong?
And you could easily argue that we are, because the guy's worth over $1 billion. So it's going back to the money. It's been worthwhile in that regard. We'll remember him forever as long as the sport exists. He's going to go on to own a team, and I'm sure do a lot of other great things in his life. So it's hard to say that his life hasn't worked out well. Maybe that one aspect can be great. Like, he's a polarizing guy. Like, I lived in Los Angeles for a while, and you'd even have Laker fans that are saying, like, either I love the guy, like if you say like, hey, naturally it comes up. People say, Ethan, what do? You say like, I cover the Warriors, whatever, back in the day, and people want to talk basketball, right? So I would say I host a show on NBA radio, and without question, the first thing that would come up would be like, either I can't stand LeBron, and I've stopped watching the Lakers or the sport altogether, or hey, I love LeBron. How great is that guy? Do you have any stories about him? So he's just about as polarizing as it gets, and it's basically split right down the center in the country, 50-50.